on Australia's business channel. This is Mediaweek.
Hello and welcome to Media Week. I'm Brooke Corty. Ahead, the latest radio ratings, just as Carl and Jackie O announced they're leaving their top-rating breakfast radio program. Ten's boss defends the ratings of his new morning lineup, and more consolidation in the magazine market. But first, television broadcasters have been investing more than ever in Australian productions, according to recent data released by Screen Australia. Screen Time has been one of the busiest production houses over the last few years, with groundbreaking reality formats like Pop Stars through to critically acclaimed dramas like Underbelly and Cloud Street. Our co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Mediaweek, is here, and we're also joined by Bob Campbell, managing director at Screen Time. Bob, welcome to you, and as always, welcome to you, James, as well. Thank you. Bob, you actually just refreshed the management team, and you've actually strengthened the non-fiction side of the business. What trend is that reflecting?
I think it reflects a trend in the marketplace. There's increasing demand for, we think, studio-based production, light entertainment, comedy. We've got a very strong drama slate and a strong factual slate, and we thought this was a way of increasing the offering to both places like Foxtel and the free-to-air broadcasters, including the national broadcaster.
Bob, by sort of strengthening, if you like, that non-fiction side of it, does that say anything? I mean, you've always been a big player in dramas. Does that mean there's any slightly lessening demand for that sort of content at all?
No, I don't believe so. I think we've always had a view within the company that we need strengths in both fiction and non-fiction. Our drama slate's very active looking forward. We've had great success with the Underbelly franchise, and we've got a number of offerings next year, so I don't see it's any dilution of the power of drama on television. In fact, I think it's probably increasing, if anything. But we want to fly on two wings, one the fiction wing and also the non-fiction wing, across the range of opportunities in non-fiction. Is
one rating better than the other? And what really excites audiences at the moment?
Good shows.
Fiction or non-fiction?
No, it's simply good shows.
Yeah, good content.
I don't think there's anything such thing as trends on television or fads on television. I think there are good shows and not so good shows and poor shows, and people are attracted to well-made entertainment, whether it's drama or whether it's light entertainment or whether it's factual or whether it's news and current affairs for that matter. I think people, as we see pretty much nightly, go to good shows, and by and large they are Australian shows today, which is a good thing for people like us.
Yeah.
And it's good to hear you say that, because the media likes talking about trends, and I guess Underbelly did spawn a lot of not sort of Me Too's, but people looking for other sort of crime, whether it be, you know, real crime stories or other crime dramas. But there is a big show can make other people think, or maybe there is something else in this genre. Or
I think it gives people confidence about the genre, or confidence about the particular subsection of the genre, but you've got to be careful, I think, too, not to overcook a particular genre, or for that matter a particular program type. So the old adage of leave the audience applauding is as true today as it ever was, I think.
And just on that cost, I mean, we talked a bit about, Brooke mentioned, you know, increased spending in the sector. Is there more money for programs, or is there just the same amount of money sort of being spread, or a little bit more but over more programs? I mean, your hours of production, are the delivery costs any different to what they used to be a few years ago?
No, costs are always an issue, of course, and the support that the sector receives through tax products like the producer offset and like Screen Australia are very important in mitigating cost increases. But is there more money to spend? I think there's a fairly fixed proportion of networks' revenue that they want to spend on programming, and that gets redistributed depending on what shows are commissioned and what aren't. So I think the programmers, who are amongst the most skilled, I think, anywhere in the world, are very selective, well planned, and they pick the things that they know they can schedule in particular time slots for particular demographic appeal.
So more money doesn't mean you guys are getting richer? You've got to work a bit harder, maybe, don't you?
Regrettably, no. The one thing I would say...
There probably is a trend across media.
That's very true. But it's interesting with fragmenting audiences how costs are going to have to be very carefully watched, and we understand that. And technology is working a bit in our favour in that regard, particularly with handheld cameras and more sophisticated and lower cost editing. So it's not all bad news on the cost front, but it's, you know, it bears watching all the time.
Your operations aren't exclusive to Australia, are they? You've got some other international
kind of parts of the business, don't you?
Yes, we operate in, we have Screen Time in New Zealand and a joint venture in the Republic of Ireland in Dublin, Screen Time Shinawal. In New Zealand, the focus is more on factual and documentary and a developing profile in drama. And in Ireland, it's very much format adaptation. They've done MasterChef and The Voice and The Apprentice and Dragon's Den. So, again, it's in response to the market demand, and those are three unique markets.
You took some investment from Banijay, a French group, last year. In terms of local producers, have you got to sort of get big or get out? I mean, do you really need that sort of economies of scale?
Well, James, I certainly think it's difficult being medium-sized. I think, you know, you've either got to have a mobile phone on the kitchen table,
so a real boutique,
or with
quite big.
Some international help. The thing that attracted us to Banijay was that they are producers. Many of them have come from a background with Endemol. They have a very broad geographic spread to America, Germany, France, Spain, and they have a distribution capability, which is very important to us to get our formats and shows out to the broadest possible international audience. And the other thing you need, along with distribution cloud, I think today, is ready information, and Banijay are very well resourced in research, and we're getting a lot of very valuable information in a very timely way, which we wouldn't have had we remained just Screen Time in Australia, New Zealand and Ireland.
The audience information, or what
formats,
kind of information?
Audience information, what's working, what's not, what's being launched, what's being developed. It's an era of instantaneous communication, and everyone knows, probably particularly the broadcasters, what's working and what's not overnight, every night. And so, pardon me, as producers, pardon me, you've got to be as equally well informed as your customers are.
I guess something that got you on the map pretty quick in Screen Time's lifetime was pop stars, and it started the big craze for a lot of similar formats internationally. Is that an area you still think you might be playing in a little bit, and are you still there anywhere with it?
It's almost a decade ago, isn't it?
Well, a bit more.
More than a decade ago. In
2001,
1999, firstly in New Zealand.
Oh wow!
Yes, we'd love to be. Well, Pop Stars has been in pretty continuous production all that time in various territories, not here notably. And of course, we'd love to be back in the shiny floor genre with music or whatever else attracts an audience.
It's big dollars these days to produce those sort of programs.
It's becoming increasingly big dollars, and I suspect in some cases it's getting a bit marginalised. But those big formats are very important to networks. They are on 2 or 3 or 4 or sometimes 5 times a week, and so they are, you know, the building blocks of network schedules in some ways. So yes, we'd love to be back in that market. We've got to find the right program for the right network. Why
do you say those programs are getting more expensive? Why are they more expensive now to do than 10 years ago?
Well, Pop Stars was basically an observational documentary program about music, but today these are big studio shows with international expertise, including judging and musical direction, so inevitably they're going to become dearer, and the audience expects more every time you take a franchise out. If you know, The Voice had these 4 judges in year 1,
who are they going to have
not going to have those 4 judges in year 4. I mean, the audience expectation reasonably expects difference and expects improvement, I think. So that has some pressures on costs, of course.
Talk to us a little bit about the sort of multi-channels. Are you getting any commissions other than sort of ad-funded models there? And also about subscription TV. Is there much work around there?
Well, I'll deal with the second part of the question first. I mean, Foxtel is a very important part of our development and planning. We're doing a number of things for the platform at the moment, including some factual shows, and in prospect we hope some drama. We did Cloud Street a few years ago, which was very successful for the Premium Movie Partnership. So the second answer to your question is a very important part of our development and planning going forward. The digital channels have been a perhaps surprisingly good economic outcome for the networks, and I think in time, whether it's legislated or whether it's strategic, I think we will see some more local production on those digital channels because they are positioned in a particular way for a particular demographic market, and I think the way of reinforcing that positioning is by doing some good local production that targets the demography tightly. It'll be different production to what you see on 7, 9, 10, the ABC or SBS, but we think there are some real opportunities there, and we're going to pursue that fairly aggressively.
I think we've got to wrap up, Bob, but just before we go, I mean, you used to be a network boss running the 7 network, of course, kind of late 90s era. Do you sympathise with...
Old Testament, I think.
No. Do you sympathise with Hamish McLennan at 10 at the moment, trying to get these new shows up and just battling to get even back in the game? Or?
Of course, and everyone would like to see, 3 very strong free-to-air commercial networks and a well-funded ABC and a well-funded SBS. So there's a lot of people out there barracking for 10, and I hope that Hamish and his team meet with success, and I think the path for that success is going to be largely determined by what they commission from producers like us, from the independent community and off their own bat, but the Australian schedule will determine the success or failure, not just of 10, but I think of all the commercial networks.
Got anything good for them?
Yes, of course.
Well, we might watch out for those. Bob Campbell, thank you very much. Good last question from Managing Director of Screen Time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Tom.
Here on Media Week, stick around because we're looking at the radio space coming up. Details next.